It's my alien neighbor's mating season, and the consequences shocked me. From his small apartment on the edge of Sector 12, Alex could see the sprawling metropolis of New Avalon below, a city that had grown wild with neon lights, hums of energy grids, and the constant movement of vehicles gliding through the air. For Alex, the city had always felt too big, too fast, and too loud, but he had gotten used to it, like a musician becomes familiar with the notes on a page. Yet tonight was different. Tonight, the air inside his apartment felt unusually tense, almost electric. His neighbor, an alien named Lyra, lived in the unit next to his. Lyra's species, the Cellari, had been part of New Avalon for decades, though few humans ever got close enough to understand them. They were tall, lithe beings with translucent skin that seemed to glow softly when exposed to light. Their large, opalescent eyes reflected a kind of intelligence and curiosity that humans often envied. Lyra had been polite, courteous, and distant, the perfect neighbor, in the kind of sterile way that made you feel comfortable yet removed. Alex had met her once in the hallway, briefly exchanging pleasantries about the weather in the city's upper atmosphere. She had smiled, a real, full smile, and it had unnerved him. There was something alien about her smile, not in the way humans saw beauty differently, but in a way that suggested understanding and awareness of things far beyond human comprehension. Tonight, however, there was no polite distance. He could hear a strange rhythm from her apartment, a low hum that rose and fell like a tide. He frowned, curious and a little uneasy. The sound was different from anything he had heard before, a vibration that seemed to resonate through the walls and into his own apartment. He paced by the window, trying to convince himself that it was nothing. Maybe Lyra had a new device for her work, or perhaps it was some Cellari ritual he wasn't aware of. Humans had learned to coexist with aliens in New Avalon, but understanding their cultural practices was still a challenge. Some things were fascinating, some intimidating, and some downright baffling. Alex's curiosity eventually got the better of him. He walked over to his intercom and pressed the button for Lyra's apartment. "Hey, Lyra, are you okay? I can hear sounds. Everything all right?" There was a pause on the other end, then a voice, soft, melodic, and layered with tones he didn't recognize. "Alex, yes, I am fine. It is normal for me during this time." "Normal," he repeated, unsure what she meant. "Sounds intense." "Yes," she said, and her voice seemed almost shy now. "It is my mating season." The words struck him like a jolt. His heart skipped a beat. He had read about alien reproductive cycles in textbooks and academic papers, but hearing it from a neighbor, someone living a few walls away, made it real in a way he hadn't imagined. "Your mating season?" he asked carefully. "Does that, mean anything for humans nearby?" Lyra's response was gentle but firm. "No, Alex, you are safe. It only affects my kind, but it can be surprising." He swallowed, unsure whether he wanted to ask more or step away. The sound from her apartment was rising now, a wave of harmonics that vibrated the floor beneath his feet. Alex found himself frozen, a mixture of awe and apprehension holding him in place. There was something deeply mesmerizing about the vibrations, almost musical, almost alive. Then a knock at his door startled him. Alex jumped back, his pulse quickening. He opened the door to see Lyra standing there, her eyes reflecting the dim light of his hallway. She looked different, more intense, more radiant, as if the very energy of her being had shifted. I wanted to ensure you were comfortable," she said, her voice a mixture of concern and hesitation. "Some humans may find this overwhelming." Alex nodded, trying to sound casual, but his words faltered. Yeah, I think I'm okay." "Just didn't expect, you're, he waved vaguely, gesturing at her aura of energy. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes glimmering. "Yes, it is a time of heightened senses. You may notice things differently, feel different vibrations, emotions. You may even see things you normally do not." Alex blinked. See things like visions? Perhaps, she said softly. It depends on your sensitivity. Humans often feel resonance when Selari express themselves. It is not dangerous but unexpected. Alex swallowed again. He had always prided himself on keeping calm under strange circumstances, but this was uncharted territory. Okay, I'll try. Lyra nodded, stepping back into her apartment but leaving the door slightly open. From there, the hum grew louder, more intricate. Alex felt a tingling sensation across his skin, like the air itself was vibrating with the rhythm of some cosmic heartbeat. His mind tried to analyze it logically, but the more he focused, the more the vibration seemed to seep into his thoughts, blurring the line between reality and perception. Minutes passed. Alex watched, fascinated and cautious. Then he noticed something strange. Shadows moved across Lyra's walls, though no light source could explain them. The shadows danced, intertwined, and seemed to interact with the hum, shaping patterns that felt almost alive. He frowned. "Is this normal too?" he asked aloud. A calm, melodic laughter came from Lyra's apartment. "Yes, Alex, it is the expression of life. Selari celebrate mating season with energy, sound, and light. What you see is natural. It is part of our connection to each other." Alex stepped closer to his own door, peering around the edge. The shadows were mesmerizing, intricate, and hypnotic. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. The patterns shifted, forming shapes that seemed to tell stories, stories of connection, of life, of something older than the stars themselves. Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot through the apartment building. Lights flickered, panels hummed, and for a brief second Alex felt weightless, as if gravity itself had softened. His stomach lurched. He realized then that Lyra's mating season was not just an intimate biological process. It was a display of energy, of life force that could influence the environment around her. He stumbled back, catching himself against the wall. This is incredible," he murmured. His fear had shifted to fascination. He wanted to understand it, to know how her species could wield such power without harm. Lyra's voice echoed softly, almost like a whisper directly in his mind. "Do not fear, Alex. You are safe. It is part of life, not destruction. Observe, learn, and perhaps feel the resonance for yourself." Alex hesitated. The temptation to step closer, to immerse himself in the phenomena, was overwhelming. Part of him worried that humans were not meant to experience this. Another part was curious beyond reason. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped toward the threshold of his own apartment, willing himself to experience what Lyra's species called mating season, not as a participant, but as an observer. As he focused, the shadows and hums began to merge in his perception. Colors he had never seen before appeared in the air, patterns of light that curved, twisted, and sang in resonance. Each pulse seemed to communicate emotion, memory, and intent. It was not language, not sound, not sight. It was something deeper, primal, and astonishingly intelligent. Hours seemed to pass, though Alex had no sense of time. He found himself moving in rhythm with the vibrations, unconsciously syncing with the energy that Lyra radiated. His body, mind, and heart felt attuned to something far greater than himself, something that belonged to the universe itself. Finally, as the first hints of morning light filtered into New Avalon, the hums softened. The shadows dissipated, leaving only the soft glow of Lyra's apartment. Alex felt exhausted, overwhelmed, and strangely exhilarated. He had witnessed something beyond human comprehension, yet it had not harmed him. Instead, it had opened a door, however small, to a new understanding of life, energy, and connection. Lyra stepped out again, her expression calm but bright. "You have observed well, Alex. Not all humans are willing or able to experience this. You are different, sensitive, attuned." Alex smiled, though he was still catching his breath. I don't know what to say. That was incredible," she nodded. "It is not to be described in words, only felt, only lived, and it changes those who witness it. perhaps in ways you cannot yet understand. He nodded slowly, realizing that she was right. The night had been overwhelming, astonishing, and life-altering in ways he could not articulate. And though he felt tired, even drained, he also felt connected. To the universe, to life, to the mystery that Lyra and her kind represented. As he stepped away from his door, the first rays of dawn casting golden streaks across New Avalon, he knew one thing. The consequences of what he had just experienced were only beginning to reveal themselves. The city outside continued to hum with its usual rhythm, but for Alex, everything had changed. He had seen life in a way that humans rarely could, and he had survived to feel it. And somehow, deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The morning light of New Avalon spilled across the city like molten gold. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor as if the patterns from last night had been etched into his very mind. He could still feel the subtle vibrations, like echoes trapped inside his skin. His apartment, which had always felt ordinary, now seemed almost alive, resonating with a quiet energy he hadn't noticed before. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep and confusion. It was strange to think that a neighbor could affect reality in such a profound way, and yet he could not deny it. The experience had been too vivid, too intense, and too alive. He dressed slowly, mechanically, knowing that today the city would pull him back into its usual rhythm. Work awaited, and obligations called, but a part of him felt reluctant to step away from the newfound connection to the energy he had witnessed. By mid-morning, Alex had forced himself into the elevator that led to the lower levels of the city. The hum of machinery, the chatter of humans, and the rush of hovering vehicles created a familiar symphony. Yet for him, it sounded different. The vibrations from last night seemed to linger in the air, subtle but undeniable, making even ordinary sounds feel layered and complex. He stopped briefly by a cafe, ordering a cup of synthesized coffee, though the taste barely registered. His mind was occupied with the patterns, the shadows, and the hums. Could a human really understand this? Could he adapt to it? He wasn't sure. What he did know was that something inside him had shifted. By noon, he found himself walking past Lyra's apartment again. The door remained slightly ajar, a silent invitation, or perhaps a reminder. He paused, debating whether to knock, speak, or retreat. A part of him feared intrusion. Another part, curiosity, urged him forward. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. Alex, Lyra's voice called softly, almost as if she had been expecting him. He hesitated, then stepped fully inside her apartment. The interior was bright, yet serene. Light bent strangely around the walls, forming subtle arcs and waves that seemed to respond to his presence. Even without the mating season active, there was a soft hum of energy, a residual effect that made the air feel alive. "You returned," Lyra said, tilting her head. Her eyes reflected warmth and intelligence. "I sensed it. Your presence, your resonance is stronger than I anticipated." Alex tried to speak, but words failed him. Instead, he nodded, acknowledging her observation. He noticed that the air itself seemed to pulse gently, as if welcoming him. I couldn't stop thinking about last night," he admitted finally. "It was unlike anything I've ever experienced." "Yes," Lyra said softly, "it leaves impressions on those who observe. Not all humans can endure the energy, but you are different." She gestured toward a low platform in the center of the room. "Sit, observe, feel. You may begin to understand more." Alex obeyed, cautiously lowering himself onto the platform. He closed his eyes and focused on the vibrations around him. This time, it was not a passive experience. He could sense layers, rhythms, and patterns, interwoven threads of emotion, intention, and life energy. It was not language, it was deeper. Communicating, learning, and connecting without words. Time seemed meaningless. Minutes stretched into hours as he absorbed the quiet symphony of Lyra's presence. He could sense the cycles of her energy, the ebb and flow of her being. It was as if life itself had a heartbeat, and he had been given a chance to feel it from an entirely new perspective. Then something unexpected happened. The energy shifted, not in intensity, but in direction. Alex felt a subtle tug drawing him toward a memory that was not his own. Images formed in his mind, fields of light, alien cities floating in the sky, and beings moving in harmonious patterns. It was beautiful, almost overwhelming, and yet it was not frightening. "Do you see?" Lyra's voice was a gentle echo in his mind, even though she sat quietly across from him. "This is a glimpse of what it means to resonate with life fully. It is not just my species, it is all life, connected in ways humans rarely comprehend." Alex swallowed. It's incredible. I never imagined, humans, we don't experience things like this." "No," she admitted. "Humans are still young in terms of universal understanding, but you are capable of perceiving more than most. That is why I allowed you to witness last night's energy, to experience it." He nodded slowly. The idea that he had been chosen, or perhaps simply able, to perceive this reality made his chest tighten. The energy was not just mesmerizing, it was transformative. He felt his mind expanding, his awareness stretching beyond the limits he had known. For the next several hours, Alex and Lyra sat together in silence. She guided him subtly, sometimes through words, sometimes through the sheer presence of her energy. He could feel it influencing him, aligning his own internal rhythms with the vibrations of life. Each pulse, each hum, each shimmer of light was a lesson. It was not something one could teach in a classroom. It was something that had to be experienced. Eventually, the conversation shifted. "Alex," Lyra said, "you must understand. The energy you witnessed last night is only part of a larger cycle. It is not constant, but it is powerful. Selari mating season is vital. It sustains our species, strengthens connections, and aligns us with life's rhythms. But it is also unpredictable." "Unpredictable?" Alex asked, wary now. "In what way?" Lyra paused, her large eyes reflecting the city lights outside. "The energy can influence those nearby. Humans may feel it as emotion, resonance, or visions. Rarely it can trigger effects beyond what is expected. That is why I was careful to warn you." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. "Effects like what?" She smiled faintly. "Sometimes, a human may feel a sense of empathy or understanding they never had before. Others may experience physical sensations, dreams, or sudden clarity of thought. It is harmless but intense." He nodded, taking in the words. Last night had already proven that, though he had not yet understood the full consequences. "I think I felt some of that already," he admitted. "I can still feel it, the energy, it's inside me now." "Yes," Lyra said softly, "it remains, it will stay for a while. You will adjust, adapt, and perhaps learn more about yourself in the process. You may find your perception of life changing." Alex swallowed hard. It was one thing to witness alien energy, but another to feel its lingering effects inside him. He felt alive in a way he could not have imagined, and also uneasy. Change was never simple, and he knew that the next days would reveal more than he had bargained for. The afternoon passed in quiet observation. Lyra moved gracefully around her apartment, tending to what Alex guessed were her own needs. Feeding small devices that pulsed with light, adjusting panels that vibrated subtly, and occasionally humming soft tones that blended with the energy around them. Alex noticed that her presence alone seemed to synchronize the room. Shadows, lights, and vibrations moved in harmony with her motions, creating an environment that felt more alive than any human-made technology he had ever seen. As evening approached, the atmosphere shifted again. The hums returned, stronger this time, though not as intense as last night. Alex felt a tug at his awareness, pulling him into the experience once more. He realized that Lyra's mating season had cycles, just like humans had circadian rhythms, and that he was witnessing the rise of one of these cycles. This, this is happening again, he asked, a mixture of awe and apprehension in his voice. Yes, Lyra said, stepping closer. It is not the peak, but it is a surge. You may feel it more strongly now because your perception is attuned. Observe carefully. Learn from it. The energy teaches. Alex focused again, letting the vibrations wash over him. This time, the patterns felt more intricate, layered, and deliberate. Shapes of light formed with clear intent, as if trying to communicate not just emotion, but knowledge. He could sense the rhythm of life itself, the growth of plants, the flow of water, the subtle pulse of creatures across the planet. It was overwhelming, yet beautiful. Hours passed, and Alex felt himself drifting between reality and perception. His mind expanded, memories shifted, and he began to notice connections he had never considered. Life, he realized, was not merely survival or struggle. It was a network, a harmony, an energy that bound all beings together. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice gentle but commanding. You are learning. Humans rarely witness this fully. You are fortunate, but there is more to come, Alex. The consequences of this energy will not end tonight. They are only beginning. Alex nodded, exhausted but exhilarated. I want to understand. I want to learn more. Lyra's eyes glimmered. And you will, but you must pace yourself. The energy can overwhelm. The resonance must be balanced. There is a rhythm to life and it must be respected. As night fell over New Avalon, the city lights casting reflections across the glass towers, Alex stepped back toward his own apartment. He felt changed, aware, alive, and connected. But he also sensed that his journey had only begun. The mating season, the energy, and Lyra's guidance were only the start of something far greater than he had imagined. For the first time, Alex realized that his human limitations were no longer absolute. He could perceive, feel, and perhaps even influence the energy around him. But with this awakening came responsibility and consequences he could not yet foresee. He entered his apartment, closing the door gently behind him. The hum of the city outside seemed different now, resonating with echoes of what he had experienced. He sat by the window, watching the stars and thinking of Lyra. The lessons of the day were clear. Life was more intricate, more interconnected, and more alive than humans generally understood. And as he drifted into a restless sleep, he knew that tomorrow would bring more revelations, more energy, more understanding, and more consequences that would challenge everything he thought he knew about life, humans, and the universe itself. The morning arrived with a calm that seemed almost unnatural after the intensity of the past 2 nights. Alex awoke with a strange clarity, his mind alert in ways it had never been before. Colors appeared sharper, sounds richer, and even the smallest movements in his apartment seemed to hold meaning. The experience with Lyra's mating season had left a mark deep inside him, a lingering resonance that refused to fade. He rose and walked to the window, gazing out over New Avalon. The city pulsed with life, but today he felt he could perceive the subtle rhythms beneath the noise, the sway of aerial traffic, the gentle hum of energy grids, even the faint vibrations of distant machinery. Everything seemed connected, a tapestry of motion and sound that humans rarely noticed. Yet, as much as he marveled at this new perception, he also felt a flicker of unease. Something was changing inside him, subtly but unmistakably. His heartbeat seemed attuned to patterns he could not control, and emotions flared without cause, small bursts of exhilaration or melancholy at random intervals. He had learned to observe Lyra's energy, but now it seemed to resonate within him, carrying consequences he could not yet fully grasp. Determined to understand, he dressed and made his way down the hall toward Lyra's apartment. The door was ajar as it had been before, and he stepped inside with a mix of anticipation and caution. "Good morning, Alex," Lyra greeted him, her voice calm yet resonant, carrying an almost tangible warmth. She moved gracefully toward him, and for a moment Alex simply watched, captivated by the subtle glow of her skin. "You are attuned now," she said. "Your resonance has strengthened." Alex nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "I can feel it. Even now, the energy, it's inside me. I don't fully understand it, but it's there, and it's changing me." "Yes," she said softly, "this is the consequence of exposure. The energy integrates with those who are receptive. It expands perception, awakens senses, and sometimes influences actions and thoughts. You must be careful, Alex. It is powerful and humans are unaccustomed to it." He frowned slightly. "Careful how?" "The resonance responds to intent," Lyra explained. "Your emotions, your focus, even your curiosity can shape the energy around you. It is subtle at first, but with time, it may become stronger. You must remain aware of your own influence." Alex swallowed, realizing that this was no ordinary lesson. He had witnessed something extraordinary, but now the responsibility of managing it fell upon him. The realization was both thrilling and frightening. For the next several hours, they sat together, and Lyra guided him through exercises to focus his awareness. He learned to sense the energy in layers, its vibrations, its flow, its connections to life beyond the immediate environment. He could feel the pulses of nearby flora and fauna, the rhythms of the city's energy grid, and even faint echoes of distant storms on other planets. It was overwhelming, but Alex found himself adapting, slowly learning to filter and interpret the information. As the afternoon sun moved across the sky, Lyra's energy shifted again. The hums and pulses grew more pronounced, though less intense than during her mating season peak. Alex noticed a subtle change in himself as well. His thoughts became sharper, his intuition more precise, and his ability to anticipate patterns of sound, light, and motion improved dramatically. "You are ready for the next stage," Lyra said. "You will witness more directly how resonance can affect the world around you, but you must remain calm and focused. Do not let curiosity or fear dominate." Alex nodded, determined to maintain control. He had come this far, and he wanted to see how far his perception could extend. Lyra moved to a control panel on the far wall, her fingers brushing across the surface. Panels lit up, displaying streams of data that Alex could somehow understand intuitively, as if his mind had adapted to interpret the alien symbols. Energy flows within the apartment shifted, forming intricate patterns in the air. Shadows danced, lights curved in harmonious arcs, and the hum deepened into a resonant tone that seemed to vibrate in Alex's very bones. He felt the energy respond to him. When he focused on a specific pattern, it intensified, as if acknowledging his attention. When he relaxed, it spread more broadly, influencing the entire room. It was a revelation. The resonance was interactive, a living system that could be guided, but only by those who understood it. Hours passed in this delicate dance. Alex felt exhausted, yet exhilarated, and when the first hints of evening appeared, he realized he had been immersed in the experience far longer than he had anticipated. "You have done well," Lyra said, her eyes glimmering. "But there are consequences beyond personal perception. Exposure to energy at this level can influence others nearby, even if unintentionally. Humans, in particular, are sensitive to such resonance. You may notice reactions in friends, colleagues, or strangers. Their emotions, focus, and even behavior could shift subtly." Alex's brow furrowed. "You mean like last night when I felt everything so strongly, others could feel it too?" "Yes," Lyra confirmed. "But it is unpredictable. Some may sense only faint echoes, others may experience profound shifts. This is why you must be cautious. Your resonance is expanding. It is a responsibility." As if on cue, a sudden vibration pulsed through the apartment. Alex looked around, startled, and realized it was emanating from himself. His own energy, now heightened, was spilling outward. He could feel it touching the edges of Lyra's resonance, intertwining with hers, and extending beyond the apartment walls into the city. He took a deep breath, concentrating on grounding himself. Slowly, the energy stabilized, retreating to a calm hum that matched Lyra's tone. He realized how delicate the balance was. One misstep, one uncontrolled thought, and the resonance could affect countless people. "Alex," Lyra said gently, "this is the first test. You must learn to harmonize with your own power before you can control its effects on others. Do not be alarmed if strange events occur outside these walls. You are connected now, whether you wish it or not." He nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of her words. The thrill of discovery was tempered by the realization of responsibility. For the first time, Alex understood that what he had witnessed and absorbed was not merely a phenomenon to observe. It was a force that could ripple through the world. As night fell over New Avalon, Alex left Lyra's apartment, feeling both exhilarated and wary. The city outside seemed quieter, yet charged with subtle currents he had never noticed before. People passed by, oblivious to the energies weaving around them, yet Alex could sense their faint awareness, as if echoes of the resonance lingered in their minds. The next few days were a blur of observation, reflection, and adaptation. At work, Alex found himself noticing patterns in human behavior he had previously overlooked. Small gestures, fleeting expressions, subtle shifts in tone, they all conveyed more meaning than he had ever realized. He could anticipate questions before they were asked, understand motives without explanation, and sense moods that remained unspoken. Colleagues began to remark on his unusual perceptiveness. "You seem different," one said, curiosity mixed with admiration. "More aware, more focused. Are you feeling okay?" Alex smiled politely, though inside he wrestled with the truth. He could not explain the source of his heightened perception, not yet. It was something extraordinary, beyond human comprehension, and yet it was real, undeniable, and growing stronger each day. At home, the residual resonance continued to influence him. Shadows seemed to move with intention, lights shifted subtly, and faint hums echoed in quiet spaces. Alex realized he was now attuned to life in ways that went far beyond sight and sound. He could feel the pulse of the city, the rhythms of neighboring apartments, and the distant flow of energy through New Avalon's infrastructure. One evening, as he sat by his window watching the city lights, a faint vibration touched him, delicate, almost imperceptible at first, but insistent. He focused, tracing it back to its source, and his eyes widened. Lyra's energy, now distant but still resonant, had reached beyond her apartment once again. Something was happening, something deliberate. He felt a tug, a silent invitation, drawing him to observe what he could not yet comprehend. His instincts told him to respond, to act, but caution urged restraint. He sat quietly, allowing the resonance to unfold naturally. The energy formed patterns in the night sky, faint but discernible to his heightened perception. Shapes of light curved and twisted, creating a silent language of motion and intent. Alex realized with a thrill that this was communication, deliberate, intelligent, and far beyond anything human technology could replicate. He reached out mentally, aligning his thoughts with the patterns. The response was immediate. The lights shifted slightly, acknowledging his presence. Alex felt a profound connection, a dialogue without words, bridging the gap between species, between life forms, and between minds. Yet, as exhilarating as it was, a small part of him felt apprehensive. If this resonance could communicate so powerfully across space and life forms, what other consequences might arise? Could humans unknowingly become participants in the energy? Could they be influenced in ways they could not understand? The questions hung in his mind as he watched the night sky, a mixture of awe and concern settling in his chest. The resonance was a gift, a revelation, but it carried responsibility beyond anything he had anticipated. And deep down, Alex sensed that the true test had only just begun. The city of New Avalon had never been quieter, or perhaps Alex had never noticed the quiet before. He stood at his apartment window, feeling the subtle vibrations coursing through the air. The resonance inside him had grown stronger with each day, its presence as natural and vital as his own heartbeat. And tonight, he could feel that something extraordinary was approaching. It started with a faint hum, barely perceptible at first. He paused, listening, and immediately recognized the pattern. It was Lyra. Her energy, now distant but unmistakable, had extended beyond her apartment, reaching through the city like a gentle wave. The hum grew, intensifying in rhythm and tone, resonating with his own internal vibrations. Alex felt a thrill of anticipation. He had come a long way since first hearing her mating season hum. Now he could interact with it, respond to it, and even influence it in subtle ways. He closed his eyes and let himself align with the energy, sensing the threads of life it touched, people walking below, vehicles gliding through the air, the faint pulse of the city's energy grids. And then it happened. The energy surged outward suddenly, like a wave breaking across a shore. Lights flickered across the city, shadows twisted and danced in intricate patterns, and a warmth spread through Alex's body that made him feel more alive than ever. He realized with awe that Lyra's energy had reached beyond her immediate space, affecting the lives around her, and he, through his resonance, was connected to it all. A wave of understanding washed over him. He could sense thoughts, emotions, and intentions, not in detail, not as language, but as pure resonance. The city, normally a chaotic jumble of sound and motion, now revealed itself as a web of interlinked life and energy. Humans, aliens, machines, all moved in harmony, guided by patterns he had never noticed before. His excitement was tinged with apprehension. Lyra had warned him of consequences. He could feel the subtle effects on humans nearby. Some were aware, startled by fleeting emotions or sudden clarity. Others remained oblivious, yet still subtly influenced. It was powerful, intoxicating, and a little frightening. Alex, Lyra's voice echoed softly, though he sensed it in his mind rather than hearing it. You are ready. This is the true peak of my resonance. Observe, learn, and participate, but remember your focus. Your intent shapes the energy. He nodded, taking a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. Slowly, carefully, he extended his awareness outward, merging his own vibrations with hers. The result was immediate. The city responded. Lights brightened in arcs, shadows moved in intricate dances, and the faint hum became a symphony of energy and life. Alex felt connected to everything: the city, its inhabitants, even the distant stars beyond the atmosphere. He realized that life itself had a rhythm, a pulse that could be perceived and understood if one was attuned enough. And now, through Lyra's energy, he could experience it fully. Hours passed as he moved through the resonance, learning its patterns, testing his focus, and exploring the limits of his perception. He felt exhilarated but also responsible. Every shift in his thoughts, every emotion subtly influenced the energy. He had to remain calm, balanced, and intentional. Suddenly, a sharp vibration pulsed through the city. Alex's eyes snapped open. The resonance had changed. It was no longer just a wave of energy from Lyra. It was interacting with life throughout New Avalon, sparking connections he had not anticipated. He could feel people responding. A child smiled unexpectedly. A worker paused to help a stranger. A musician in a nearby square played a melody that seemed to harmonize perfectly with the energy. Alex realized that this was the consequence Lyra had warned him about. The energy, though beautiful and life-affirming, influenced those around it, even without their awareness. He felt a mixture of exhilaration and concern. This power was incredible, but it required care. Focus, Alex, Lyra's voice guided him again. Shape the energy with intent. Observe how it affects life and adjust as needed. This is a lesson in responsibility. He took a deep breath and concentrated. Slowly, deliberately, he directed the resonance toward positive outcomes. People who needed clarity received subtle guidance. Minor conflicts resolved themselves naturally, and the city's rhythm became smoother, more harmonious. He could feel the gratitude of those touched by the energy, not as words, but as vibrations of warmth and life. The night sky shifted as the resonance continued. Patterns of light formed in the air, arcs and spirals that seemed to tell stories, stories of life, connection, and understanding. Alex realized that Lyra's mating season was not merely a biological process. It was a celebration of life itself, a demonstration of the beauty and interconnectedness of existence. But there was more. He sensed distant currents, energies reaching beyond New Avalon, perhaps extending to other colonies or even planets. The resonance was far-reaching, and he understood that its effects could ripple across space, subtly influencing life in ways humans could scarcely comprehend. Alex felt a surge of determination. He would not allow the energy to be chaotic or uncontrolled. He would learn, adapt, and guide it responsibly. The responsibility was immense, but he also felt an exhilarating sense of purpose. He was no longer just a human observing an alien phenomenon. He was part of it, a participant in a vast, intricate web of life. Hours passed, and eventually the resonance began to wane. Lyra's energy softened, the hums faded, and the city returned to its normal rhythm. But for Alex, the transformation was permanent. He could still feel the energy within him, a steady pulse that connected him to life itself. He knew that he had changed irreversibly, and that the experience would shape his understanding of the universe forever. Lyra approached him, her eyes glowing softly. "You have done well, Alex. You have learned to harmonize, to guide, and to understand. Few humans could manage this. You are attuned." Alex smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "I never imagined anything like this. I feel alive. Connected, everything feels different." "Yes," Lyra said softly, "this is the gift and the consequence of resonance. Life is more than survival, more than conflict. It is energy, connection, and understanding. You have glimpsed it and you will carry it forward." Alex nodded, reflecting on the journey he had undertaken. From the first night when he had been startled by the vibrations of Lyra's mating season, to this moment of profound understanding, he had experienced a transformation. He had learned to perceive life beyond human limitations, to connect with energy and consciousness on a scale he had never imagined. As he left Lyra's apartment and returned to his own, he noticed subtle changes in the city. Lights seemed warmer, movement more fluid, and even people he passed on the streets seemed slightly more aware, more considerate, more attuned. He realized that the resonance he had absorbed and guided had left lasting effects, ripples of harmony that would continue to unfold. Sitting by his window once more, he reflected on the lessons learned. Life was not just about the physical or the tangible. It was about connection, awareness, and energy. Humans, though limited in perception, could evolve to understand these rhythms, to participate in the intricate web of existence. Alex also understood that Lyra's mating season, though natural and vital for her species, was a reminder of how powerful life's energies could be. It demanded respect, awareness, and responsibility. He felt gratitude, not just for the knowledge and experience, but for the chance to witness something far greater than himself. The night passed quietly, but Alex remained alert. He could still feel the subtle resonance within him, a constant reminder of the connection he now carried. He knew that life would never be the same. Humans might not comprehend it fully, but he could. And through him, a bridge existed, between species, between energies, and between the visible and invisible threads of existence. By dawn, the city stirred once more. Alex walked to the edge of his apartment, gazing out at New Avalon with new eyes. He could sense the rhythms of the city, the pulse of life within its people, and the lingering traces of resonance that connected them all. The world was more alive than he had ever realized, and he was a part of it. He turned, catching a glimpse of Lyra in her apartment across the hall. She smiled, a serene and knowing expression that conveyed pride, understanding, and encouragement. Their eyes met briefly, a silent acknowledgement of what had passed and what had been learned. Alex felt a deep sense of calm and purpose. He had witnessed the extraordinary, adapted to its effects, and guided its influence with care. The resonance had challenged him, expanded him, and ultimately transformed him. As he prepared for the day, he knew that this was only the beginning. Life, energy, and connection extended far beyond New Avalon, far beyond human understanding. And he, attuned and aware, would carry the lessons forward, ever observant, ever responsible, and ever connected. The city below continued its rhythm, unaware of the extraordinary events that had unfolded in the quiet hours of the night. But Alex knew the truth. Life was alive in ways most humans could never perceive, and he had been given the rare opportunity to witness, to understand, and to become part of it. And somewhere deep within the hums of the universe, Lyra's resonance continued, steady, powerful, and beautiful, reminding him that connection, awareness, and life itself were the greatest gifts of all. "It's my alien neighbor's mating season, and the consequences shocked me,"